Thank you, Representative Zupkus.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for coming, and I apologize. I missed the whole thing. But when I did come in, I thought I heard you answering a question, and so I just want to drill on that for a second. So I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, so please correct me if this is not what you said. I thought I heard you say that you're not there to get people off drugs. You don't care if they do drugs. You just want them to be happy. Is that
and healthy and alive? I mean, I'm a bit of a radical here, and I know that.
I'm sorry. No,
I said I'm a bit of a radical here. I understand that that's not everyone's drive. But my goal as a harm reductionist is not to tell people what to do with their lives. It's to support them in, whatever they need. And for a lot of the folks that I work with, they do engage in. There's a lot going on in their lives. I'm sorry, I lost track.
That's okay. Because most times if somebody, I know like close people that have overdosed. Mm-hmm. I know people that have died. I know people that have been on drugs and finally got off. And I'm just asking because that's what you said. When you say that, to me, I think the goal should be to get people off drugs and not let them live their life. Because I know people on heroin that can go to work and you think they're okay and they're really not. And so they're really not being productive or helping their life in any way. And so for me, it's about if somebody has a drug addiction, helping them through that, but then getting them off of drugs, because eventually drugs will kill you. It's just a fact. And if we have lots of people that are just, I represent a city. I see it. And so not that I don't have compassion, because I do for people, and I want to help them, and we should help them, but we should help them have a better life to get off of drugs.
So people use drugs for a number of different reasons, right? And I've worked with folks where and this was a gentleman that drank a lot of alcohol. He was at the shelter every day, very intoxicated, and we got him into housing. And stopping drinking was not something that we talked about when we talked about housing stability for him. But we identified goals that he wanted to work on. And a couple months after he got housed, I came for a home visit, and he said, "Hey, Courtney, do you notice anything different?" I said, "No." And he's like, "Well, I don't have hard liquor here anymore. I just have beer that I drink." And a couple months later, there was no beer in that household at all, right? And that wasn't something that we talked about. Like, he didn't identify wanting to stop drinking, but what happened is things in his life changed so that he didn't feel the need to drink anymore. And that's sort of more of my perspective, is you can send someone to detox, you can send someone to a 90-day program, but if they were homeless sleeping in a tent on the side of the tracks before they went into program, and they come back out and they return to that exact same situation, they're probably going to use again. Mm-hmm.
And I know someone very close to me that's homeless and does the drugs and the whole thing. And it's horrible to watch. And I think people, this person has had all the opportunities given to them, and they've just chose not to use them. And so anyway, I'm not going to debate that with you. I did have one other question. So do you work, and if you've already answered this, I'm sorry, do you work at one of these sites?
No. So I did work for basically a peer-led one. It was a pop-up tent site in response to the city taking a while to open. There were a few places in Canada that started these pop-up sites in response to the fact that people were dying, and it could be preventable. And so it's a little bit of a different experience than the sites that we're proposing.
So you live in Canada, not here.
In Canada.
Okay. Okay, because I don't think that, I guess my question was, did people come in and inject and use drugs in the places where you were?
Yep. So we picked a patch of grass that people were using to set up our site. We actually had a model where people could smoke their drugs as well as inject them.
And are those drugs illegal in Canada?
Mm-hmm.
And you were still able to do that with it being illegal?
Yeah. The police knew. The police came by. They would bring people to us.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.